obviously a few years to join, and then what I'll do is I'll just give my sort of thoughts on today's press conference. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp was a little bit, you know, he was actually brilliant actually, and he was everything I expected him to be with regards to his usual calm approach to what we're going to do in summer. Now, it's really difficult for me to put this across because it's very difficult to put it across when I'm doing it via words, on getting back to fans on different pages that I'm on, but also my own channel, Liverbird TV. And the reason why it's difficult to come across is because basically there's a reason why I have such a calm approach to Liverpool in the transfer market, and that is because they more or less always get it right. If you just say fair enough, Loris Karius and Naby Keita are probably the two that you'd say that wasn't a success really in terms of laying out decent sums of money. I can't understand why our fan base is so, well, not our fan base, it's getting bigger, but a percentage of our fan base has just completely forgot everything that we've done in the past just because we're having a bad season. Now, it's really hard for me to explain this in any other way than facts, so I'm going to go through facts. And the facts are, Liverpool don't piss about in the transfer market and they rarely get it wrong. So I'm going to give you some names of players that we have brought in. So what I can't understand is why there's parts of our fan base that are just going mental. All right, I get it. We should have signed a midfielder last summer. We tried to get Tushimi. We didn't know that Arthur Melo was going to break down after 14 minutes. That was a bad mistake. And if you look at last night for Man United, Sabitzer gets 2 goals for them, and he's basically just like their Arthur Melo. It's the way it happens sometimes. Luck can go either way. And obviously we didn't expect so many of our players to be off it as quickly as they have this season. You've got to remember that we were basically 2 games away from a quadruple, and 3 or 4 months later we just looked like a totally different side. I never seen that coming. You never seen it coming. Klopp, FSG never seen it coming. So you can either be a supporter that's going to just get behind the best transfer committee and the best transfer sort of football club on the planet, because that's what we are. If you look at Todd Boehly in Chelsea, you will see what happens when you don't have patience, strategy, and also planning when it comes to transfers. Chelsea have spent 600 million and they can't get it. They can't even score a goal. I mean, what the hell? So it goes down to one thing, and it goes down to the thing that I always say, and that is you've got to look at Liverpool's past history when it comes to transfers, and they rarely get it wrong. So Luis Diaz, recent classic example. Cody Gakpo, another great example. He's going to get better. Darwin Núñez, fans' favourite. He's going to get better. Harvey Elliott, brilliant. Carvalho, great little gem of a player. Then you go back to the old cases. Your Bobby Firminos, your Mo Salah, your Sadio Mane's, your Gini Wijnaldum's, your Fabinho's, Andrew Robertson's. I mean, do you want me to keep going on? So what I'm saying to you is I just don't get some of our fans. I don't get, just because we don't want to spend 130 million quid on one player, that doesn't mean that we've got less than 130 million to spend, and it means we're going to spend 20 or 30 or 50 or 60. I mean, some of the comments that I've had to read today of fans that think we're going to spend a net spend of 40 million in the summer. You just don't know what you're talking about. Because if we're going to spend a net spend of 40 or 50 million, we would have to have a lot of players that are sellable. And we haven't. The players that are going on a free. So what you don't understand, and James Pearce said it yesterday and he hit the nail on the head, right? FSG don't take any money out of Liverpool. Do you know that? They don't actually take a penny out of the club. They let the club run at a sustainable business. They let the club run itself. They don't FSG don't plough their own money into the club, and Liverpool, and they don't take any out. The Glazers take 8 million a year out of Manchester United in dividends, right? And yet FSG get a stick for being shit owners, right? They're not shit owners. I mean, I cannot, and I was down at Anfield 2 weeks ago for the Legends match. I cannot believe that the new Anfield Road end that they've built. And this is what pisses me off when it comes to these clowns that go on about Liverpool's net spend in the last 3 or 4 seasons. In the last 3 or 4 seasons, can you tell me how many owners have shelled out for 2 stands and a training ground? Exactly. That's the difference. What if they didn't build the Anfield Road end and they didn't build the main stand, right? And they didn't build the new training ground and they spent that on players? Would you be happy? Yeah, you probably would. But then guess what else you'd moan about? You'd moan about not being able to get a pissing ticket because we'd still be stuck at 44,000. We go into next season at 61,000. So there's 17,000 more seats, more or less, now at Anfield, which makes it more, accessible to games if you can get tickets, right? And someone said this to me yesterday, and I absolutely loved it as soon as he said it. He said, the problem is with these fans is if we'd have bought Jude Bellingham for 130 million and he got injured for 6 months in his first season, them fans would have had a go at FSG and Liverpool for putting all their eggs in one basket and spending that much money on one player. And that's true. These fans don't give a shit about anything other than bragging to their mates, playing FIFA, playing Football Manager and getting Jude Bellingham shirts with number 8. Some of these are grown men, by the way, my age, that can't wait to get Bellingham 8 on the back of the shirt. I stopped putting Liverpool players' names on the back of my shirt, I think, with my early teens, late teens. Gerrard 8. In fact, yeah, it was the 2002 World Cup. It was the last time I had a player's name on the back of my shirt. Grow up, for fuck's sake. And do you know what does my head in? Is I actually could feel the pressure on me getting more and more intense. I'm getting called names. I'm getting called a, FSG puppet, not knowing that I've not bought anything from the club more or less in a couple of years because of my stance against the prices of merchandise, including working for AFC Liverpool for 4 years, which is a club that was which was created based on the fact that supporters are now priced out of the game. So I'm everything but an FSG lover, but I'm not stupid. I'm not stupid. I see facts, and the facts are this: the reason why we don't need to go and spend Todd Bowley £600 million, or like Klopp says today, we don't need to go out and spend 100 million on 6 players each and spend 600 million. It's because we are one of the best teams in the world at getting players. Why do we have to spend 130 million on Jude Bellingham when we can go out and find probably the next Jude Bellingham for 30 million or 20 million or 8 million or 6 million? Why do we have to spend big to be successful? And I'm going to ask the fans that keep going on about this, that why do we have to have a great net spend to be successful? Nottingham Forest spent 150 million in the summer. They're looking like they're going to go down, right? People have been showing me a table of this summer spend, saying, well, Chelsea has spent more than us, Forest has spent more than us, Bournemouth has spent more than us, West Ham has spent more than us. West Ham has spent more money in the summer than they have ever spent, and they're having their worst season that they've had in years. The season before, when they spent money properly and didn't just throw it about on players that look great and this Paqueta here and Paqueta there and let's go and get these players that everyone says is great on FIFA and all this stuff. They had a run to the Europa League final or semi-finals, right? They finished top 6 in the Premier League, or top 7. They then go out and bow to fan pressure, and now they're near relegation, right? Everton Football Club are being financial fair play breached. They spent 600 million on players and don't even have one to show for it, right? So what are you going on about? Klopp and FSG will not listen to you people. They will not listen. Do you think they care? Do you think they actually care if you sit there and tell them that they haven't spent as much as Forest or West Ham? No, they don't care, because they don't need to listen to you, because what they listen to is their self and their track record of the world-class transfer history that they clearly have, right? When you can get the best left-back in the world, or one of the best left-backs in the world, for 7 million. I still remember when we signed Andrew Robertson, we were completely laughed at by rival clubs. We were completely laughed at because they were out spending 80 million on Harry Maguire's, or they were out spending tons of money on, I think Alexis Sanchez had gone to Manchester United and he was a complete farce. Klopp has said it today. What, these, some of our fans are like 5-year-olds. You don't go and buy a Ferrari when you can't drive it. What he's trying to say is, he's looked at his options. I was listening to Neil Jones today again. What you don't realise is you lot just think I just come on these videos and go, do you know what, FSG, I love FSG, stuff you lot don't know what you're talking about. The reason why I say you don't know what you're talking about is because I listened to Klopp. I've watched the film Moneyball. Most of you probably have never even watched that film, right? I've also had a look at our recent success in the transfer market. And I said this to my mate today when we were talking about it at work. I said, Mudryk cost 90 million, right, for Chelsea. 90 million. We got Cody Gakpo, Luis Diaz, and Ibrahima Konate, and Harvey Elliott, Fabio Carvalho, and Ramsey, for what Chelsea paid for Mudryk. Are you listening to what I'm saying now? We got 5 or 6 players there, top class players by the way, for what Chelsea paid for Mudryk. Now if you want to go back a few years, Manchester United paid 80 million for Harry Maguire. We got Bobby Firmino, Mohamed Salah, and Bobby Firmino and Sadio Mane, sorry. Sadio Mane, Bobby Firmino and Mohamed Salah for what Manchester United paid for Harry Maguire. I mean, do you want me to carry on here? So, what are you saying success is in the transfer market? Is success doing what Chelsea did, which is going buying £115 million central midfielder Fernandes? Now, this black lad cost 115 million. I actually haven't seen him do anything yet. And another thing, he can't score goals, he don't assist any goals, and he cost 115 million pound. And you think Liverpool should go out and do the same thing? I mean, there's a concerning issue at the moment regarding Jude Bellingham's knee. He's had it in a brace quite a lot. Now, he's still playing well. He's still not showing any signs of missing games through injury. But that would be a worry for me. If a 19-year-old boy is already having to strap his knee up, that would be a worry for me. And can Liverpool afford to go and spend £130 million on one player, but also one player that's got issues already in his early teens with a knee? Right? No, we can't. The difference is if Man City get a £100 million transfer wrong, they don't care. If PSG get a £100 million transfer wrong, they don't care. Because all they do is they just put up the price of fucking oil, right? Or they just, I don't know, they don't care. They just, it's a toy, right? PSG is a toy to their owner, right? You know, Abramovich at Chelsea, that was a toy to him, you know? And it's the same for Newcastle. I know they're doing it the right way, but what I'm saying is if they went and pissed 200 million in the summer window and all them players turned out to be crap, it doesn't matter. But what you've got to understand is those that slate FSG don't understand it's because of them we are the club we are right now, in terms of we had fell a long way off from the team we were in the 70s and 80s. We were in our mid-20s in terms of years without a league title. I watched the film Moneyball, right, and they took the idea of winning the major league on getting baseball players that were, you know, past it or on a free, or nobody wanted them, or they had stats that nobody were noticing. If you actually watch that, they use that at Liverpool. They find the stats of the best young players. They would rather sign a youngster for 600 grand, i.e. Bashetic, we'd have paid 600 grand for, 333 grand actually, and then he turns into a player that could be worth 100 million, then spend 100 million on a lad that ends up being a player that ends up worth 500,000 in 5-6 years because he's fucking absolute dog pony and shit. And that's the way they do things. But what you've got to remember is Jurgen Klopp was identified, right, by FSG because he sings from their hymn sheet, right? Klopp is a romantic. Klopp is German. The Germans hate clubs that are not run properly. Look at the banners that Bayern Munich showed at the Etihad the other day, right? Look at what they were calling owners like, you know, Man City's, etc. What I'm saying to you is, Klopp said this when he was managing Borussia Dortmund. Bayern Munich have bazookas. We have bows and arrows. But it never worked out too bad for Robin Hood, did it? He calls himself the Robin Hood manager. That is what he loves. He loves taking on the oligarch teams. He loves taking on the teams that have got super money and doing it like he did at Dortmund, where he built that phenomenal side, like he did at Liverpool. He loves the philosophy that Klopp, he loves the fact that he doesn't, can you remember when Klopp said that, you'll never see me go out and spend £100 million on one player? He actually said that, didn't he? And it come back to bite him a little bit when he bought Van Dijk and Alisson. That shows you what type of manager he is. And I just put this on a poll on the group a minute ago. Klopp would walk. If FSG sold tomorrow and was taken over by somebody like Man City's owners or Newcastle's owners or PSG's owners, he would walk. It's not what Klopp does. Klopp is not Pep Guardiola. Pep Guardiola goes wherever the money is. Wherever the best teams are, wherever the money is. He can have £1 billion to spend and call himself the best manager in the world. Klopp doesn't. Klopp likes to go in and find... What did he say? Klopp doesn't buy world-class players. Klopp makes them. So I don't understand how you can call yourself a Liverpool fan and watch that all them years and watch how Liverpool have done it and know what Klopp's all about and then go after our owners. Why did Jurgen Klopp not come out today and hang John Henry to dry? Why didn't Klopp not resign the minute that we didn't get Jude Bellingham after looking at him for 2 years? I'll tell you why. Because Klopp is the one that made the decision to not go for Jude Bellingham. I'm telling you. He had a major say in it, and I'll tell you why. Back in the day, we used to have people like, obviously, Michael Edwards. He'd have a big say in transfers. Then we had Julian Ward. Julian Ward's leaving. Michael Edwards is gone, right? Klopp now has full say on transfers. Klopp now is the man that goes, yes, no. I think, and I've put a piece up earlier, I think that Jurgen Klopp basically thought he needed a couple of players in the summer, right? I don't think he thought he would finish out the top 4. It's got to the point now where the players are letting him down, and he's gonna get shot at half the team. I'm telling you now, he's going to start again. So what he's done is he's looked at it and gone, fuck, because I haven't signed a player last summer, because we should have gone last summer, we're gonna have to go this summer. But because I'm not going to be in the Champions League, I can't go out and spend 130 million on one player. I can't do it. I can't do it because I'm going to need 2 or 3. So if you look at it like this, you could get Tielemans on a free. You could get Gravenberch for 35 million from Bayern Munich. You could get Matthias Nunes for 40-50 million. You could get Mason Mount for what you'd pay for Jude Bellingham, or you could get obviously Declan Rice. So Klopp's looking and he's going, Jude Bellingham, if I get him now, it's going to cost me 130 million, but I could bring in 4 players right now. And there was talk that there might be a bidding war with Bellingham. So Klopp likes to get all his players signed early. So Klopp will want his targets to be in for the first week of July, so he can have a full pre-season with them. That's the way Klopp works. So if it dragged on with Jude Bellingham of a bidding war, and we focus solely on Jude Bellingham, we could lose Gravenberch, we could lose Mason Mount, we could lose what's his name, Tielemans, to other clubs, because we're putting all our eggs in that basket, and then before you know it, bang, we've gone into the season and we're fucked. And we're fucked because we've put all our eggs in that basket and we've lost targets that we could have got. Plan B, C, D is fucked. So what Klopp's doing now is he's identified the fact that, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out and I'm going to get all these players that I want because we're going to need 4 or 5 in the summer. And then what maybe will happen is if Jude Bellingham really wants to play for Jurgen Klopp, he'll sign another contract at Dortmund. And he'll go, do you know what? I'll stay at Dortmund for another couple of years. I'll only be 21 years old. And I'll have a minimum fee release clause in it of 100 million. Because Dortmund will get an extra 2 years out of me, so they're happy. And they'll still get 100 million at the end of that. Klopp will then steer this new generation Liverpool team into the Champions League again next season, and then he'll have more money, and then he can come back in for Jude Bellingham. Why can't that work? But what I'm doing this video for now is I can't understand how the fan base has gone from being a doubter to a believer back to being a doubter, right? Football, sometimes you get injuries. Look at Manchester United at the moment. They're dropping like flies. Watch them tail off now. Watch them go out the FA Cup. Watch them go out the Europa League. They'll tail off because they've lost their best players. We've lost our best players. We haven't had Luis Diaz for 5 months. We didn't have Diego Jota for 3 months. We didn't have Van Dijk for a couple of months. Every player's had a spell on the sidelines for a month or two. It's completely ruined our season. It happens. We've had a mid-season World Cup for the first time ever, and it's affected the players. We had 63 games last season. Have you not counteracted into any of that? Mid-season World Cup, 63 games last year, and horrendous injuries. Right? So maybe now it's time to just calm the fuck down a little bit, let the world-class transfer strategy, world-class man in charge, the man that knows what he's doing, in probably the greatest manager of all time for signing players that nobody had heard of years ago. Lewandowski, Marco Reus, Mario Götze, Hummels, Aubameyang, from the second division in France, and then he goes to Liverpool and he finds, gets his Manes and Salahs and Firminos, and obviously Firmino was signed before Klopp, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. Klopp finds top players and makes them world class, or potential top players and makes them world class. So all I'm going to say is, I've said this, right? Klopp will get a good 200 million to spend this summer, and it has to be 200 million, because we would have never even been contemplating going for Jude Bellingham if we wasn't thinking about possibly going for him for 100 million plus. But we wasn't going to bring one player in. I mean, people talk like we didn't spend no money last year. Darwin Núñez is going to cost up to 85 million euros, and then you add counteract the fact Cody Gakpo is another 35 to 40 million. So there's 110, 115 million. Calvin Ramsey was set at 7 million pounds, another 7 there. Cavallo was another 10 million. So we still spent 140, 145, 150 million last summer. But then we bid for Tuchemi. We tried to get in for another 70. So we nearly spent, if we'd have got Tuchemi last summer, we'd have spent 200 million last summer. And people are saying, well, we're never going to spend it. Klopp waits. He waits. He doesn't waste his money. He doesn't panic in the market. If Jurgen Klopp was in charge of Everton with Mashiri's money, Everton would be in the Champions League, and Everton would have won a few trophies by now. I'm telling you this right now. If Mashiri had given Klopp his money and Klopp took over Everton, Everton would be in the position we'd have been over the last few years. I'm telling you now, because Klopp does not panic in the market. He has a name, he likes targets, he likes players, he goes and gets them, right? And he'll wait a window or two if he has to get that player, because he has that team philosophy and the players that he needs. So it is what it is. And all I'm going to say is, just relax now, get behind the lads for the last 9 games of the season. Don't worry about net spends and what FSG are going to do, what this is going to do, right? Because I tell you what, the minute Klopp comes out and says these owners are useless, I'll believe him. But he knows they're not, and I know they're not. Do you know why? Because he goes to Anfield on a regular occurrence. I lived outside the stadium for 5 years, worked at the stadium for 2 of them. So I know the impact of FSG on the community, on the Anfield, and on Liverpool Football Club. And you do as well. Stop blaming them for everything, right? We could have brought a midfielder in January. We decided to go for Cody Gakpo. Do you think that was John Henry that went, no, don't want no midfielders, I want Cody Gakpo? No, it was Klopp. It was his targets, and it was somebody moving for a target that he wanted. So Klopp went, get him. I want him. Klopp is in charge of Liverpool's transfers. You better believe it. He's in charge of Liverpool's transfers. John Henry just writes the checks. For all you haters, he doesn't take a penny out of the club. He uses Liverpool's money. So what he does is he's got Liverpool, paid the £267 million worth of debt off, got us started afresh, built 2 new stands and built a training ground for us, which will be legacies for 100 years before John Henry's well in the ground and dead, right? And he has given us the best manager we've had since Shankly or Paisley. And he's just said, right boys, you can have, and this is true, if you sell any of the players, the money's yours because it's Liverpool's money. So here's a stat that you keep throwing at me, that you keep throwing at FSG and John Henry. Oh well, we only signed Van Dijk and Alisson because we sold Coutinho, right? Did FSG bank any of that money? Did they say, do you know what? Oh, here we are, we've just made 142 million here for Coutinho. Here are Jurgen, there's 80 of it. We're taking the other 60. We're going to have that. Did they fuck? They put it straight in Jurgen's hand and we went and bought 2 top class players because John Henry is a big, massive, and I've listened to Simon Jordan on TalkSport. He believes that every football club should be sustainable. Every football club should run itself as a business, right? John Henry doesn't want footballers worth 130 million. He thinks it should be capped. He's the one that's saying that the fees are ridiculous, wages are ridiculous. He's a big fan of trying to stop all that. He's one of the people that's John Henry's the one reporting Man City every 2 minutes for clearly cheating. Who do you think's fighting for our corner for that? So what I'm trying to say to you is, Liverpool spend what they make. So what does my head in is, people will say, well, if we sell some players in the summer, then it will go towards transfers. Well, so it should, because that's how a business runs. So I'm not going to keep saying it because it gets on my nerves, and I am actually wasting my energy and my time. Because if you're a football fan and a Liverpool fan that don't know that, like Klopp said, there's nothing we can do for you. There's absolutely nothing we can do for you because you don't know nothing about football. You don't know nothing about running football businesses because they should be sustainable. And the fact that Liverpool run as a business is good because it means we can't get in the shit. We don't have to go through the courts again and get them rid of them cowboys like Gillette and Hicks because we're in a good place. And if Liverpool was sold tomorrow, yeah, FSG would take a major profit, and so they fucking should. That's what happens when you save a football club. You should take some out of it, and that's what they should take. But also, they would have left a legacy. They would have left the fact that they ended that 30 years without a title. They've built 2 stands and a training ground that are going to be having your kids in and your grandkids in for the next 100, 200 years. So at the end of the day, give them a fucking break. Stop blaming them for everything. They're good owners. Yes, we'd love them to spend more money, but it's Liverpool's money they're spending, and if Liverpool ain't got it, they've not got it. All this crap about revenues we've made. You might see revenues being posted, but do you see the outgoings? The £300 million a year wage bill? Do you see what the stands cost? What this costs? No, you don't see the outgoings on wages. What it costs to pay these players and sign their new contracts. We used to always lose our best players. But yet you never hear anybody mention the FSG spending when they sign Virgil's contract or Alisson's contract or Henderson's contract or Salah's contract. Do you know, every time they sign one of our players' contracts and he doesn't go to a rival club, that's like signing a player for 40 or 50 million quid, because every contract costs around about that much. So new signings ain't just ones that come through the door and hold a shirt up. New signings are the ones that are extending for 5 years. But you don't count that, do you? Know your football, you'll never walk alone.